Our next guest is author and activist Laura Carno. She's going to tell us about the new program for teachers that I am all and absolutely for. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing good, You know, getting my little stretches in, as you saw earlier. Yeah. So what is this program helping to promote?
Yeah, so here in Colorado, it's already legal for school staff members who are have their concealed carry permit and have permission of their schools. It's legal for them to be armed first responders on their campuses. So that's already legal.
Okay.
And here in Colorado, we have lots and lots of people doing it very quietly. Lots of schools don't want to have it out there in the public.
Yeah.
And what we're offering them is a very, very advanced world-class training that's very specific to stopping active shooters in the school setting when you've got tiny humans around you. It's a very different situation than any other self-defense situation. So it's called FASTER training, and it stands for Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response. So it's stop the bleeding, first of all, because you think about Sandy Hook, it was 30 minutes before medics were cleared to come in. So stop the bleeding, stop the shooter. And fewer people die if somebody can stop the shooter sooner and stop the bleeding sooner. So we have our first class starting in June, on June 20th. It's a 3-day class here in Colorado. And we're very excited to be bringing this to Colorado's teachers. It'll make Colorado's school kids much safer.
Gotcha. I kind of want to talk about this a little bit on a more conceptual level, and in terms of just the idea and the notion and apprehension that a lot of people have with respect to arming teachers in schools. I have a theory, and it may be wrong, it may be right. I'm pretty sure you have some great perspective on it, and so I'll put it out there and let me know what you think. So I tend to look at the idea of arming teachers and the apprehension that people have towards it the same way that some people look at prenuptial agreements. They tend to see it from the perspective of, well, if you do want a prenuptial agreement, then you're assuming that this marriage is going to fail. And I think in some parts, and granted, there's a level of facetiousness in that, but in some parts, I think it's hard for people to accept the fact that we are now in a position where we have to entertain the idea that situations like Sandy Hook will happen again. And it's almost it's so much easier, or the idea of thinking about sending off our pride and joys, the things that we care about the most, to a place where that might happen again is so daunting. We don't want to do anything externally to confirm that idea by way of arming teachers and saying, well, it actually probably will happen again at some point, and so therefore we're doing these things. You don't want to acknowledge it. It's just too scary to acknowledge. What do you think about that working theory that I have with respect to that?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. We live in denial in a lot of things sometimes, and I think there are people who say, well, if I don't think about it, if I don't acknowledge that these bad things can happen, they won't happen.
Exactly.
But they do happen. I mean, we just saw little girls getting killed, and they were targeting little girls.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a broken world, and pretending that things aren't going to happen, pretending that my kids are going to be just fine when I drop them off to school, isn't going to make them safe.
Absolutely.
And lots of schools all around the country have come to this realization. And the curriculum that we're teaching here in Colorado, the FASTER curriculum, we are getting from our friends in Ohio who have been training the same curriculum for 5 years. And going into this summer season, they've trained almost 900 school staff members.
Really?
In Ohio, there are 900 school staff members who are there to protect kids. So I think you're probably onto something. I've never heard it compared to a prenuptial agreement. That's pretty creative.
I tend to have pretty hyperbolic analogies.
Right, but I mean, but I think that's how a lot of people think, because when I go to the Capitol in Denver and testify on against gun control bills or in favor of gun rights bills, the other side is always saying we just have to have fewer guns, and then there will be less violence, and that's just. That's not rooted in reality.
It's not only not rooted in reality, it's so far removed, it's almost laughable. We entrust teachers with the safety of of kids' minds and the developments of their minds. And then even to take it down to a more elementary level and a more concrete level, I mean, let's talk about the idea of going on field trips. You know, we entrust the bodies and the lives of our kids to be in a vehicle, being driven by someone who we largely don't know. And we're perfectly okay with that. So this idea and notion that, you know, if we just get rid of guns, which that in and of itself is just kind of silly.
Right.
You know, they don't purport to make the same assumptions with respect to car accidents when we talk about taking kids on field trips. And it seems like a juxtaposition, but it's really not. It's almost so simple. It makes so much sense. It almost doesn't connect.
Right. So we think the world of our teachers until we say, and I don't mean we as in you and me, but the other side says we can't possibly expect them to teach and to carry a firearm. And the rest of us go about our lives doing our jobs and carrying a firearm.
Yeah.
Why would a teacher be any different? And when I went to this FASTER class last year and I met 24 of these brave individuals who said, sign me up. I will volunteer for this. These are incredible people. People who would put their body between bullets and other people's kids if that's all they had. These are incredible people. And I hear the anti-gun side say, well, they can't possibly learn how to do that. And I say, have you met these people? Because there are dozens here, many dozens that I know of already. Ohio has identified 900. Call these people, talk to them. So it is very interesting that we place teachers on a pedestal until we say they couldn't possibly do these other things.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I had a bit of a kind of inner conflict. I've had teachers literally tell me that, you know, they want to carry at their schools that they teach, where they teach, and it's illegal to do it. And their stance is, I don't care. I care about these kids, and if anything happens to them, I'm going to do everything in my possibility to make sure that these kids are safe. So it's kind of like, Colion, what do you say to someone? Like, what do you say to that? You know, it's like it's inherently illegal, but at the same time, it's like I understand.
Living here in Colorado, where we had the Aurora theater shooter, the theater shooting that killed so many people, injured so many more. What a horrific crime. I asked myself this question: if I were to go to a movie and there was a gun-free sign on the door, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I'm safe in a gun-free zone.
Yeah.
I am in charge of my own self-defense, so I don't blame people for making decisions like that.
It's just funny you say that. Actually, I did a video. It was one of my early videos where I documented going to the movie. This is when I really started getting into concealed carry, and then I become abreast of the different laws, the different signages. And I did a video where I was going to a movie theater. I had my gun on me. I'd been going to a movie theater for years, and little did I know, I walk up and I see the sign, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? You know, then I had the same conundrum that you did in terms of, do I go in anyway? Do I risk this? Do I not? And, anybody who wants to go out there and find it, they can go to the video and they can figure out what I ended up doing. But that's not why we're here. So what is the possibility, or what do you think from your perspective could be the best way for programs like this to be adopted in other states?
Yeah, and so first, before I forget, because I know there are Colorado people listening right now, folks can go to fastercolorado.com. And if you think about it, the faster we stop the bleeding, the faster we stop the shooter, the fewer people die. So it's fastercolorado.com. Find out information, see a video we've got on it, and register. So
absolutely.
I know as soon as I post something, all my Colorado contacts are saying, oh, I'm going to watch. So there are states, one by one, that are loosening up their restrictions, and I think loosening up the restrictions is a good thing because this makes kids and school staff safer. What I did is I contacted the people in Ohio who've been doing this for 5 years. They have a great template, a great training that has withstood 5 years of tweaks and improvements and some Supreme Court challenges. And I would talk to the folks in Ohio and say, hey, my state is doing this. Can you help us get some training started? They have been spectacular.
Yeah.
They're at fastersaveslives.org if folks want to contact them. They have been amazing. I met them when they had a number of Buckeye Firearms Association folks self-deployed out here to Colorado during our recalls in 2013. They showed up and said, "What can we do? We couldn't sit on our couches." Awesome.
That is
So
very awesome.
they're great Americans, and that'd be a great place to start. But you have to understand the laws in your state.
Yeah.
Do the laws need to be changed? Our laws didn't need to be changed, but almost nobody knew that it was legal. So we just decided to bring this world-class training here.
Did you? So when you guys, became abreast of that, the notion that it wasn't illegal, and then these programs like Faster started. Were there people on the other side who were like, well, now we need to do something to make this illegal? Was it kind of one of those days where they didn't know about it to was now we've kind of shone the light on it because we found out about it and we took advantage of it in a very positive way, of course. Did you have some people trying to kind of usurp that?
Yeah, so good question. Right now, nobody's opposing. I thought the other side would come out and say this is terrible.
Yeah.
But our legislative session is also over for the year.
Gotcha.
So will somebody say, hey, this should be illegal next year? I mean, knock yourself out. You can try that. I don't think that Colorado is an anti-gun state.
Yeah.
And we will have dozens and dozens of people testifying if they decide to do that, saying, I have been doing this for 4 or 5 years. You cannot take this away from me.
Yeah.
And so it would be an interesting conversation if they want to do that. But I wouldn't suggest they do that. I don't think it will be met with kindness.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. But thank you very much, Laura. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I always thank you so much for the work that you do. It's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk to AWR Hawkins about Stand Your Ground laws.